Hey, welcome back. We're going to start getting into a little bit more advanced stuff, sort of the beginnings of the basic. In this one, I want to show you how to link between tables here, between these tabs. And you may have noticed in the last video that there's this new column called Room and a bunch of unnamed records in it. And so that's what I'm going to show you, sort of what we did here. Now, here's how I like to set up my Room tab. First is obviously before we go up, we sort of know which delegates are going to be rooming together. We don't know what room they're going to be in exactly yet, but we know who's going to be sharing room with who, and whether it's male, female. In our case, our cluster, we have a bunch of different delegations. But the first thing I did when I created this was in this first field here that I called delegates. For the column type, I did link to another record. And there's a few other, like lookup, roll up, I think. See, what are the other ones? There's a few, I think, in here. But in order to use those, you first need to link to another record. So, but in this case, we're just straight linking. So it'll ask you which, link to another table. So in this case, we're linking to the delegates table. And then what I did was we had this was obviously blank. So what I did is you can just go in and let's say in this particular room, who else would we have in there? Let's say Noah. So we've already put in Benjamin and Joseph. So now we're going to type in Noah. And as you type it in, it'll, filter out who's not, whatever. So go ahead and, then you select there. And if you need to take them out, just take them out. But this way, all the rooms are set. And so when we linked this particular column to the Delegates tab, it automatically created another column. So this links straight back. So this is a live link between here and here, between Delegates and Room. And then we just sort of filled in the other information. Now, I also did another link. So we know everyone does room checks at night. So I linked to my advisors tab, which I created, as you can see up here. And then these are the advisors who are in charge of checking that particular room. Hopefully we actually don't need to check advisor rooms. But let's see here. So as we go over to the advisors tab, again, since it's a live link, it links between, the room here and the checker tab there. And so then I know, okay, these 4 advisors are in charge of checking rooms. And, these 4 may help out, but, these are the ones that are responsible. Go back to here. But then what I do is we get to the conference and then we actually have our rooms and the keys and all that stuff. I go ahead and figure out, I'll type in the room number. And this is about the only thing I actually do at the conference as far as filling in info. You'd want to do the rest before. But this we really can't do until we get there. So let's say, Anthony and so-and-so, they're in room 101. They're in room 102, 105. All right, I went ahead and entered in just, some random room numbers. And so the nice thing now is now that we've named the rooms, when we go back to the Delegates tab, if you were to, let's say, you want to know which room Sophia's in. So when you search Sophia, it'll come up, it'll show you, okay, Sophia's in room 101. And I believe if we click on it, so when you go into the room, and this would be more of like a mobile thing, which we'll show you later, but it says, okay, this is room 101, and these are all the people in room 101. So you can do that straight from the Delegate tab. Or same, from here, we know who's in, which room. So if you're walking by and you hear a lot of loud noise and it's coming from room 225, you can say, oh, it's those Murrieta kids again. But then also with advisors, so now we have, room checks and we know which room checks they need to do. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump over here really quick. So when we do room checks, and I set up a column for each night that we have to do it. So in Sacramento, you'll have 4 or 5 nights that you need to be doing room checks. And I set this up with a as a date format with like which includes the time and a 24-hour format. And this just helps out to, not only did you check the room, but we know you can go back later and say, oh, we checked the room at 11:42. And so if we ever have any issues in the future, you can sort of look back on this and say, okay, the room was checked, and, kind of cover your bases a little bit. But on top of that, we have, so let's see here. And actually in this, I'm not going to show you how to hide fields in this one. But what I did was I set up a bunch of grid views in here. And so since we know Amelia, Ben, Ella, and Gabrielle are in charge of checking, some rooms, I set up a view with a couple filters. So this particular one, this is Amelia's checking, and then this is, the first night, so Wednesday. So if the room has not been checked, the actual record shows up. But as soon as on her phone, let's see here, the room gets checked, and on your phone it's really easy. It, just inserts all the time and date right away. So you just click it and hit enter. But as you can see, as we did that, that record disappeared. So if we go back to the main view, we can see that it has been checked here, and that Amelia now only has one room left to check. So we'll just go ahead and do another one right there. And so now Amelia says, okay, I'm done with all my checks. Now this helps out if, let's say, Ella needs to check some rooms, but she got called off to take care of something. So she says, who else do we have here? Let's say Joseph. Joseph can go into Ella's tab and say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and check, this particular room for you. Boom, done. And so then, if Ella asks Joe to check her rooms, Joe's not checking Ben and Gabrielle's and everyone else's. Now for whoever is in charge, whether a program director or lead advisor, I put in a master check. So this tells me every room that has not been checked. And so as they go away, I see which rooms still need to be checked, and then I can confirm at the end of the night this should be empty. And then when it is not, I'm confident that all the rooms have been checked then. And if there's one missing, let's say, so Ella forgot to check this one, I could say, text Ella and say, hey, did you check room 230 yet? And then, just to make sure it all gets done. Now, this is for Wednesday night, so what I would do on Thursday morning is just go in really quick and change the filters from Wednesday to the next day. So now Thursday. And let's see, where checker is not empty, and let's, okay, so Thursday is empty, sorry. And so then that resets for the next day. And it's kind of, you have to do it for each one, but it's really not too bad. So, yeah, that's sort of about all for simple linking between tables. And I just throw in this one really quick, I'll show you. So quick count, this is a count one. And so what I decided to do was count the delegates field, and to tell me who was in each room, and even though there are some advisors in this. And then what it does is it tells me, okay, so in this room, in room 101, there are 3 people. And, in room 102, there are 2, so on and so forth. And the nice thing is it gives you a little count at the bottom, so you can say, okay, we have, 50 advisors and delegates, so we have 50 here. Should be good to go. But yeah, I guess that's all for linking, and I'll see you on the next one.